It's for my minda muna masi and fambra your channel you message set notification button or turning on now subscribe to the any update to be on Sabeka no ashe ama bibia aye kama e branch o mengi bre ni nkotie nsem kakra ekos
Edra na dwa kofo badwuma ho bia ye bibi wa we yesi e bi station bi wa ha master na wa enye na mo bia beton wa mo enye no bi bo bi pharmacy oba bi mobile money it's not artificially created ye kan was it entesa
oba kanti untimi induce no wa nkasa we induce ma say you create an enabling environment for that artificiality no ebeba why induce artificiality number.
When you talk about inducement and inducing or commerce, maybe you may give a practical example. You see, the normal workers would induce for instance, the creation of the 24-hour economy. For instance, electricity, it be a security. Those are basic things that every government does. The security can again provide the security. Electricity one then provide it. These are basic things. You got them say so the security acquire the hospital, acquire the facility, and those are inducing anything in the area to maybe to cause the initiative of 24-hour economy to come into being. People may disagree with you.
Okay.
They will see it as a very maybe mediocre approach and how they are addressing it. When you talk about 24-hour economy, but I mean that is not even the class of my argument. My principle is that was one of his trump card into coming into office. But as of now, on there has not been any legal or policy framework on the 24-hour economy. What he did was quickly to make a shift, and unfortunately, not only a shift, but the U-turn, the first love letter or the man Ghana for no more cried legitimately the money Jumano was dismissal. Okay, that dismissal letters not the man Ghana for and if you take it sector by sector, in the area of jobs, in the area of very say doing so graduate, I mean it's also escalated. In the area of Galamsey, Uba education, maybe more Ministry of Education. I was the former spokesperson there. And then a guy also about a friend say double track obey every I said you can say in a space of said you get 80 days. What happened to it? Joyce Bow and most around 120 days, and he himself cast the first year. But now, what did the Aaron do? Guy, Minister for Education, also on 2027. So, and back we are promising class of more first year for class of which you fees and also as they've gone also silent on it. You can take it sector by sector. Promise by promise, policy be on more council or more once and beyond. All your fan back. You can clearly see, say, even though we admit in principle, say it is too early, in terms of the reality check and the performance of the ground, so normal be bra or they not really know the confidence people repose in them, because we really election with about 1.7 million votes. Of course, I disagree as a Ghana for the don't be no tomorrow. It has more to do with MPP and says MP we say na one more control by day. But with 1.7 million and the whole reset agenda, the whole reset conversation, the whole reset data on more year or not really you would have expected say you be also move no moon there. There's maybe a week or so much.
Alright. See, baby also come do no moon. Yes, baby on ways to see another day. Also come akko at home. With a 26 a year we now or 30 what he said, and they say and they OSHA ministers of specific date within 14-day period, and I say a period B, obeying the minister say we or the car a year code of conduct
let me address those two quickly. Is the logic that a president and travel you ministers that you should be counted as an achievement? Nanga one marriage
so the number of days the period
we should move from there. Say president made a promise to say
that is why he
said or the 14 days we are appointing the cabinet. If that is the logical, then let's go to that promise. Okay, to also offer 30% of those ministers as cabinet ministers being females. Why? More than 30%. It's about 11-12%. And I mean, these are I don't want to call these achievements. These are normal. As a president or as a leader, you need it as part of your administrative setup. Who are appointing ministers? I don't know your man. So I appointing ministers within 14 days. Maza. You're 21st century. Could do other countries that people are talking about robotics, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, 21st century, 3D imaging, how our industrialization, job creation, quite a so normal when we are say education, everything. One more bit media effective change. We are talking about how big problems are being menaced like Galamsey, electricity in 21st century or my 21st century. Oh, that's so hey, station back, Mr. Station back. Just not even the super advanced country, but the average middle income status. Is a history. Some people have to go and read about it. Now, what's the now? So, also, what are the appointments of the cabinet?
Friends, code of conduct for appointees.
I'm not a president of Jumaho. So, it boils down to what I earlier said. That if you look at the average Ghanaian, when it comes to the NDC and especially Mr. Mahama, it's like now essential agriculture they feel be fallow period asasunu you so asasana na asasunu afu say wulu trends nyina hodi nyina atwa ebu etimi jato ye mfie na mfie num asase ya no sokra akire no musa asasana sa nutrients ne hodi ni ade no na sa basase no sa akọ de akodo so afu bo bancha no bancha kan ka wotwa na ye hodo no usa bakasa kese. That is the state that we are now. Ghanaians didn't entrust the country Ghana in President Mahama to do anything exceptional. It has more to do with say no mind general. People, particularly young people, people are not happy with a lot of things. I'm sure we'll delve into those discussions. And Abano busy I mean, within a space of 8 years, you can't blame anybody. The beauty of leadership is that some normal way here you take ultimate responsibility. Now you watch out, then we move on. But people were not happy. People didn't go and vote. So Mahama or President Mahama only happens to be more or less the unfortunate beneficiary of that. Now, other than that, why will anybody say may appoint cabinet ministers in 14 days? Like Yabo and Samamano. May far 30%. Why there is an affirmative action law? Now we can ask my guys about Sama and Marocas guys of Famosa. I don't want to live via Moyasama. I was the last also made.
That way, your friends, a code of conduct or the brand appointees and they more and
there is no greater code of conduct than even the Constitution of Ghana. It's very clear. And there is even no greater code of conduct than our conscience and demonstration of leadership. These are things that we write. But if you don't get a true leader will be level to with the things that has been written, when the center cannot hold, things definitely fall apart. And I've always maintained that when it comes to laws and those things, and generally our performance on those laws has been very low and poor. Consultation, code of conduct, new rules, new regulations, being in as a groomer. What to care to tuma averagely se car and do it to ubenya mumi and sign nipa be normal and show the rubber one out of our performance on it is very low. So we call baby to say beer road safety. Road safety say road traffic regulations near there. Oh my tima, all you need to defy all traffic regulations is just to buy a Land Cruiser. Kuma stop police for what are you talking about? Say rules and conduct and those things. I think we've passed there. What we need is implementation, what we need is leadership, and what we need is discipline. See Benya Penibi or Nomaka just say we are tired of all those rules. We are common sense approach. Hey, I buy the chair, can also buy my 8. I said, Trogu was about my 8. That's all point 5. I said, trans answer was 0.5. And I don't want to call this achievement. Yes, for purpose of holistic harmonization of what he wants to do, or buffer for, say, your code of conduct. Now one has also in court, the appointees in court declare one more asset. Say, and declare. Actually, also by 7th of this month, when declare your own track, offer less than man. Never hope when declare because as of now, we just sure say even 10% of his appointees have declared their asset. But just still, I mean, Mamika Samicho, with the only see. Some of these things, when you have the goodwill, you take advantage of them as a politician for the optics. And President Mama had a very wild goodwill when he was voted into power. And until now, memua ya omushi omukutu pa mo omukọ boys minds ekọ ho I mean the unfortunate incident to ku bi memua wo office ani abepa mo ni esizika ni ade no people didn't care about it. Even as Adma, he is still enjoying the good role. It's the more reason why I do so ekoso galamse ekoso ye inquired legitimate no money juma. Nobody is still talking about it. But you see, the beauty of this game is that time bound, it's seasonal. Unfortunately, my disappointment is that people who criticize President Akufo-Addo for all these number of things that he do President Muhammadu Buhari. My view is that principles shouldn't be seasonal. If you stand for something today, tomorrow you should stand for it. The following day you should stand for the same thing. Unfortunately, like I earlier indicated, and it supports the argument that I'm making that when it comes to President Mahama and the NDC, the average Ghanaian do not hold them to a very higher standard than the MPP. Hey, you know my country. See, I've been inquired. Bad Minister of Education, one GS in our financial clearance in May. Now, recruitment is not an event; it's a process. You may interview, you may do more documents, you may review, you may virtual, and at the end of the day, you see even the appointment of letter. Appointment letters required the more so is even a process. You do letter some of them averagely 90% of them by juma 6 months until almost half idea there aba na staff ID no so near dem controller na controller dey twa moka o just akura say akura ono akọ dan aye juma ajebusia edoko no waye what we school atrefia afi no wanya juma. And let me state on your platform there are statistics my Professor Kakari no statistics here. They say averagely when a half of a batch of national service or more complete school, it takes a minimum of 10 years for that half of that national service batch to get employment. The other half will still be searching. That is the state that we are in. Think also research agenda, also 24-hour economy. And let me tell you, when there is a vacuum and in the absence of a messenger, even the bad message will survive. You see, okay, bad people, bad power. You see, free SHS, free SHS now to be a day. It's they will go and vote for you. I remember when I used to go for communication meetings, I let your diet and go for almost 24-hour economy. We know that it's not possible. But if we don't give the electorates also something to hold on, they will go and believe it. People will then go and vote for you. You come into power. We will ask you what the 24-hour economy, but they are going to run 3 shifts. And the first love letter that you give to them is about you inquiry. Okay, from MPP more now from after December 7. Assuming without admitting, say for more MPP is what? Are they not Ghanaians?
Anyway, let's come to the New Patriotic Party. Na Yenhwe and some. After the defeats, Gangantra defeat, as people put it, most of the committee, the Michael Quay reports, most of them for be but some of them, snipers of them are out. You say Alaji Mahmoud Bawumia during the conference. Thank you to Akakabi and some. What actually was the problem?
Sabi you say, before say, untuma gufino, insina bonte. Ntinkomo we no dru ho a akoyese sabi ebu akoyese besipani kuna yede ahaba before say atase le banyansa fom. The normal sabi ebu course ye the elections no. Ensise mu no any party one more how is he crap party no okay Professor Queen na she say one day one enko him and of course one more the outcome aba and now ye koto na thank you to say na eka home na honorable Ken and statement general secretary making categorical necessary so be anya day there is only one copy of party na nkasa day and sometimes it becomes quite surprising and also intriguing. Say bia nipa bisu we na course we na course we na course we na course
to pages
I mean sometimes I remember when the young men was starting to 2 pages my first comment with them is I am and for pictures in the day and come in the Jimmy day in hobby. Fortunately and unfortunately high profile members of our party has also mentioned say no maybe almost say day in Hantiama ho asem kana day akoye day but maybe no meaning then say you don't need even a rocket scientist to tell you normal ma say be a party no the course ahụ here we are people of culture, we are human beings, yet we we know ourselves. Even our body language can tell a lot about what we want to communicate. Nti oni nipa asetremu no no ma ba ko mi no koso na nya wa nkasa wo yede. So I mean they are not issues I want to rehash or restate. But what I know is say Professor Kwe, the expectation is that he's done a good job on it. My surprise I recently by a call, thank you Jana, Vice President Gaze. Some factors are not part because, for instance, let's open up. This is a religion. Is that not the case? Say yes, a religion did not affect the voting pattern as outcome of the elections I have here. Let's just do a common sense analysis. If you want to find the truth in everything, the first thing that you do, there are 3 key variable tests that you do in finding the truth. One of them you call logical consistency. As a American, what is the logic in it? 2, you check what you call the experiential relevance. So, but I mean, for now, let me even base on the logical consistency so that we don't take much time. Yeti or my more chances are that yeti ye p aba yadwuma so na ye better studio ha amapobi abompai is about 99%. Okay. Yeah, by no. That's why I say we are people of culture, we are people of religion. Say VIP bus ma kuma oha etua. Me na maka just say emu 99 ebe bompai ansa no ho dey emu to bus no. Yeah, party ayeyi. Na your candidate selection crown. Why is it that you Christian? You who say we have to also balance it with the Muslim candidate. So all aspects of our lives is made up of, I mean, religious considerations. The aspects of our lives is made up of religious considerations because we are people of religion. Yeah, so those things as in care don't go for America. My mom was how the Harry was Mami or call president. One of the issue against says okay. This is America of all people. Why? Because they are people of culture. They believe in family values. They believe in family system. It to them is a big deal there. It won't even can't just say, oh my, averaging the people are so extremely religious. Oh my, to aba unya obi to say bia Papa Janasari, who made a bold declaration to his church members and other people in the WhatsApp text and voice notes about say to Obama and we should vote for a particular set or that's Kamala Harris. What do you can say? Such a people are not sensitive to religious considerations. No, if indeed your full core report on it, go through who say religion did not play a role, then I will see the work say was very inefficient work. Definitely religion played because we are people of religion. That's why I give you the basic examples that we do. Where the Yoruba Empire was here, to ensure harmony and balance at public events. Yama Christian Empire, Yama Cremonisa, traditionalists. What are we talking about? Now, in terms of all our life aspects, religion plays a role, but when it comes to election and in particular reference 2024 election, religion did not play a role. As they want to be that. So me, I don't want to even go so far into it. Religion play a role. Why did MPP in the first place even religion and to even extent BMO, for instance, even tribalism and ethnicity? If it doesn't play well, why would MPP even in the first place he say, oh, you have northern candidate just to deflect the tag say MPP is an account party? What are you talking about? What am I saying? In the first place, the party even decides to say, account party, other tribes are there. So you should even deflect that tag by even presenting a northern and a Muslim candidate. You can't say religion play a role. It defiles even the very principles that you stood for, upon which you brought the candidate to go the SI election. So I am of the strong belief that religion play a role. And the statistics are there, data are there for all of us to go and reference. How many candidates do we file in this region see, let me, before ever I go there, religion is something ordinarily, because we have learned to live with each other. No? So if some say, Metro better because you're Christian or Christian or you're Buddhist, I'm likely to say no. They are not things that we express, but we manifest by our conduct. We manifest by our conduct. Me, I had the opportunity to go to UDS, what I'm here in the first degree. UDS, unfortunately, unfortunately, it's all come offer. Muslims do also say, maybe I know. Maybe a Muslims beat my also, maybe a bear northern region. Okapa West, Christians do also say, Muslims. Okapa East, Christians do even Savannah. Probably even all the 5 northern regions, apart from northern region, maybe Muslims be dominated. Now, old school, common SRC elections, basic SRC elections, so Pentecost for to Emma, even Christian on Pentecostal denomination. Yeah, lessons I know. The only time on Betoma Christian on Pentecostal denomination, time of Pentecost in India, I'm quite sorry, Nibi. In this election, share a illegal have make that no more. Election, that lost because he's just a Muslim candidate. Why? Because people are of the dangerous belief, sir, or also my minority group in the day. These are a normal, a broke because of our harmonious living that we want to live as a people, we pretend not to talk about it. But there are things that we cannot run away from it. So
barring anything, yeah, competence, yeah, a man the religious card, the ethnic card, no play more than the competence of the person.
See, where ethnicity and religion becomes dangerous in our political dispensation is when it's weaponized. But at the end of the day, there is nothing wrong with it. When I feel, say, me a Christian, me a young Christian, there is nothing wrong with it. Okay. Let's face the reality. Ordinarily, I am more comfortable to the hard age to align, say, oh, yes, you couldn't better they do not be a day. And there's that. Well, say, we want to pretend we don't want to talk about it. In fact, the basic life decisions that we make, our I know there are cross marriages and those things to promote harmonious living and those things. But how many people ordinarily say a warrior, you cross tribes? These are realities that we cannot run away from. So those things are there. You see, at some point it may be advantage to Obi, it may also be disadvantage to Obi. You cannot tell me, say, for instance, I mean, let's look at Ibia Oko Nofa, Sa Boko Nemampusin Tokwe, which even the vice president himself has stated, say, NDC use it as a tool against us. On one part, how do you admit to say NDC uses as a tool against your candidate, and on another part say tribalism did not play a role? Logical consistency. On one part, you admit say NDC took advantage of it. Why? Because you are a Mampusi person, right? You are in terms of the numbers, you are in a minority tribe, right? But in terms of the Kusasi should number around 1.2 million. In the whole country. And one more year, very hard workers and settlers. See, Kuyayoni are in Tuko Western of they are about 25%. Muno Hafono they are about 20-25%. Some conflict between one tribe, which obviously net Dr. Babiana Kosoe or Nimhoshi, he just happened to be a victim of circumstance. Certainly, so she and this they don't care about anything. They will exploit that. They use that against you, and you admit. Now, no, thank you, Tono. He makes those comments say, and this is for Chantron, Omokaso, Omoka, sponsor, Omo with a 2 near day, and Abaya class say, and this is for Kraba, sent to Kanokwa, Onimoshi. So it was weaponized. If I don't see that, for instance, in the Okoro report, I'll be surprised that that is not a very effective work.